The people working in beauty parlors, they are coming from outside. I mean, Colombian, Dominican Republic, maybe Venezuela. For this type of jobs, I mean, we have no problem with that. No, they can work here. Some of them even pay taxes. No, this is the reality. But the problem is, for example, our parliament is trying to promote a law to let foreign people in the medicine sector, I mean doctors, physicians, engineers, architects, professionals from other countries to work in Panama, to have advance permission to work in Panama, to get a job.
I see.
I don't consider that is fair because we would not have this opportunity in other countries, in the States or in Europe or even in these countries. So I think that we have to think it well over. I mean, for certain kind of jobs, we should be more careful about letting professionals just come into Panama because they will get the jobs Panamanians need. It's reciprocity, no? If you let me work in your country, I let you work in my country, but it's not the case. So there's a group of businessmen who would like to hear about having discriminations, to let people coming down to Panama to work because for them that represents less payment for the professionals. That's all.
Well, but, that's the problem. That's the problem with letting professional people into your country, because it cheapens the labor, and the pay goes down for everyone.
That's it. There was a phenomenon here in Panama. What happened in the past 15 years that was on the contrary. For example, just an example, the price of housing. A regular 4 or 3 room house in Panama 15 years ago cost some 100,000 or 120,000 more or less. No, once the Venezuelan start came down to Panama, the price of the housing just got up. No, nowadays you can't buy a house for less than $300,000. I spent some time in the States at the end of the 90s in near Boston, in Connecticut. I saw the prices for the house there, I think of 400,000, 500,000. I thought, wow, that is very high. It would be very high for Panama, but people in the state are getting more money there. Yeah. But nowadays, the prices in Panama are at the same level as the prices that had the states, maybe that have the states today, but the income of the average Panamanian is significantly lower than the one you have in the states. How you can get a house, for example?
Who lives in these houses?
Who lives in these houses?
Who's able to afford them?
Oh, yes, there are people, for example, a couple. Maybe the couple is able, but what percentage of the income is devoted to pay in this house, for this housing? 60%, 70%? No?
Right,
this is the problem here. If we started that, the people coming from Venezuela, because at first they saw that the prices in Venezuela this time were higher for housing or whatever. So they saw that in Panama house cost 100,000. This person bought 4 or 3 houses just to resell these houses to people coming from Venezuela. The agencies, I mean, the realtors that works in Panama, they were in Panama, they saw that, and they're starting just putting more prices, higher prices on the properties. So nowadays we had to adjust to the price that set somehow this wave of Venezuelans coming to Panama that time.
But the cost of living went up.
The cost of living in general went up. Panama haven't had ever inflation. Okay, if you don't know, Panama uses, the currency of Panama is the American dollar. So because of the close relationship with the United States, once Panama got independence, we signed an agreement that we can use American dollar. So throughout the history of our country, we use the American dollar. We have no Panamanian currency. Okay, but the owner of the currency was the United States. Just as an example, until 2000, the the rate of I forgot the word. Sorry. We have no inflation, shortly speaking. No, the rate of inflation that we had in Panama was 1% per year. In 2000, the state was almost 300% per year.
Wow.
So we have less inflation, being the United States the owner of the currency. No? Nowadays, because of all this move of people, and we have an inflation rate before the pandemics of 7, 8, or 9% a year. Unbelievable.
I feel sorry for the citizens of Panama, because unlike the United States, the Panamanians cannot print money.
Oh, yes. Yeah, well, this is not bad, indeed, no? They can avoid just having more inflation and so on. But indeed, we have to be more disciplined in order not to get more inflation and other economic problems. But because of the fact that the government just let in everyone here, no? Businessmen and not businessmen, that impacted the level of prices in general and cost inflation. And we are experiencing inflation that we have never experienced in the past, no? But it's not too high, 8%, 7%, you can manage that. But this is inflation that we hadn't had in the past.
So we know that immigration can be problematic, or it has its problematic side. What is your country doing either legislatively to deal with the issue of illegal immigration?
Okay, first I would like to define my point, to make clear my point. I don't think that immigration is bad in general. No? You know very well that all of our countries in America in general, from the United States, Canada, to Argentina, have received immigration throughout the history of
Absolutely.
Our
oh yeah, this is a country
and
of
this
immigrants.
Immigration, indeed, they help us to create our nations, no? But the problem is not immigration, is the number of immigrants you are receiving, the condition that you have as a country to receive and to provide services and health and everything to these groups, and the level of education and the level of skills they have in order to be productive to our countries. That's the problem. If you don't have a system, to pick up, to study each case individually, then you have a problem. No? That's the thing that's happening here, and that's happening in the States.
Juan, I'd like to know if in Panama you have something, public assistance to people like we have here. So, food assistance, housing assistance, other types of assistance. Does your government do anything for these people who don't have jobs?
Panama is a third world country, a developing country in general. No? So we have not all the resources or the aids we would like to have, even for Panamanians. That means that the condition in which we receive these people is just like letting them do whatever they could do to get money. That is a problem, because we have no, organized programs to help people coming out to Panama, immigrants coming out to Panama. It's more like do what you can do to get money. That could signify that they could be engaged in activities that are not very well seen, so to speak. Because of that, I think if you receive immigration, you could make sure that they are productive people that could contribute to the economy, not just let them coming in. No? That's the problem. In the state, I understand you have programs to help these people, to provide some, aid, some food, some clothing, but it's not the case that we
Well, now I understand. Now I understand, Juan, how you could manage with this inflow of great number of immigrants because the country doesn't provide the public assistance that they provide in the United States. Here, it would be impossible to provide public assistance to 20 million people coming.
Oh, that's the problem. But what is the problem here? There are people who receive money from letting these people coming in, but that is all. No, they don't preoccupy about what happens with Panama, what happens with the Panamanian economy, what happens with the Panamanian jobs, with the Panamanian willing to get a good job. It's a little more rude that it could happen in the state because, in this sense, the United States are better organized as a country, as a government than Panama.
And also we print money. We print money, so we can borrow, keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, and just pay whatever programs we want to pay for.
Hey, Jay, that's episode 16.
Oh, okay.
Well, I would like to state something about, or to say something about what's happening in the States. So I just can't just imagine what is happening, you know? But in the case of Panama, that's our situation. For example, I couldn't say anything against receiving immigrants. In my case, my forefathers came from England, from Colombia, and from Spain. No? So my wife was a foreign people, because I'm a foreign person living here. So I think that immigration could help to develop the country or whatever. But what's the problem? Just like this, not letting everyone come in, not having the resources to support this immigration or to help or to be organized to receive this immigration in the case of Panama. In the case of the state, you have more information, but I suppose that this is also not very comfortable receiving people without being prepared, without having the resources, or just having to devote resources to foreign people coming down that maybe are not necessary for the development of the economy in this moment, instead of giving some aid or some help to Americans willing to receive this aid or help or money. No? But this is the case of our country, I mean, in Latin America mostly, and specifically in the case of Panama. I would like to hear about what's happening in the States.
That's episode 15. Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
We really wanted to get the perspective of this immigration issue from I guess a world view, a different country's perspective on it, and it's been extremely interesting. It's been very enlightening. I find that the issues that you guys have mimic a lot of the issues that we have, and we see these issues similarly, and our approach might be a little bit different in terms of how we deal with it, how we handle it, but the core issues are similar.
Yep. And also, I think that in the case of Panama, it's different than the United States in several ways. One is that everyone speaks Spanish who comes in. They don't have to learn another language. They don't have to learn another drastically different culture. So they integrate a lot easier because we have, in the United States, we have different religions, we have different, totally different ethnic groups from all kinds of parts of the world, and it's a lot more difficult to assimilate than people from, in your case.
But to be fair to the United States, if I may, that's sort of like the definition of the United States. It's a country of immigrants. Yes. I mean, from the inception. So, especially like say in a city like New York, I mean, literally you can go from block to block, and it's one of the great things about New York City or places like it.
That you can find a restaurant from any part of the world, and you don't have to travel to different other countries. You can just eat here.
It's about the food, man.
Right, it's about the food. I know you would like that, Jay.
It's about the food. Well, Juan, this has been very enlightening, very enlightening, um, and very enjoyable. I really enjoyed hearing your perspective on this issue. And of course, we'd like to invite you back for your perspective on other issues.
My pleasure, of course.
Yes, and I have the same opinion. Juan, thank you very much for taking your time and share your opinions with us.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity.
It's great meeting you also. One thing I love to do, I like to travel, and I also like to talk. I like to have conversations with people from other places because you know what, I can live vicariously through you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's rewarding also in my case because I receive information what's happening in other countries, in this case in the States. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you guys take care, and we will reconvene. Jay.
Yes, I'm stopping the recording now.
Okay.